Hello and good morning, all. Welcome to the first day of APAC Manufacturing Conclave, organized by APAC News Network and supported by Guidance Tamil Nadu and our gold partners Siemens, Creston, security partner Fortinet, industry automation partner Avaya, active intelligence partner Click, associate partners Morphisec and Choice Solutions Limited. It is indeed our pleasure to welcome you all at APEC Manufacturing Conclave. For next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we'll be having various discussion on various aspects of manufacturing ecosystem in India. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? How digitization and IT can help the manufacturing sector in India. As we all know that India has potential to become a global manufacturing hub, and by 2030, it can add more than 500 billion US dollars annually to the global economy. We know that a lot of steps have been taken by the government of India, be it Make in India, be it approval of PLI scheme worth rupees 26,000 crore for auto industry and drone industry to boost India's manufacturing capabilities. And another 18,000 crore was approved by the government for the PLI scheme for production of advanced chemical cell batteries. And these are all going to help India's manufacturing sector. Yes, there are challenges of pandemic, and India is fighting back to come to the forefront of becoming a global manufacturing hub. And what are the competitive advantage India has for the manufacturing sector? Increasing share of young working population, and India's also has a potential to become a global manufacturing hub, as I've already said. And today, for the inaugural session, we have two special guests, one from the northern part of the country, one from the southern part of the country. In the inaugural session, we'll be focusing more on the government government perspective for the manufacturing sector. We are joined by Mr. Kumar Vineet, a senior IS officer, managing director of Uttar Pradesh Development Systems Corporation Limited. He'll be representing government of Uttar Pradesh, and we'll be also joined by Pooja Kulkarni, again another senior IS officer, who is the managing director and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu, which comes under the Industries Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. And Guidance Tamil Nadu is an agency which facilitates investment and everything for the manufacturing sector in the state of Tamil Nadu. But here we have with us Mr. Kumar Vineet. We welcome Mr. Vineet. Thank you so much for joining us today in the inaugural of APEC Manufacturing Conclave.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Savi Goswami. Thank you so much.
So my question to you will be that you'll be delivering the key speaker address. How technology or various steps related to technology and IT is helping uh, or to boost the manufacturing ecosystem in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, manufacturing policy is going to be the key word in the days to come because we have seen in the IT sector that there has been a big gap in semiconductor, particularly, if I can mention that. Because recently Uttar Pradesh government went for the distribution of tablet and smartphones, and in the process we discovered that the entire world is really having a big glitch in this particular scenario. Interestingly, in the budget 2022, government of India had also taken this initiative that we should ensure a robust economic manufacturing ecosystem in India. Well, we were very happy with that particular connotation because in Uttar Pradesh we already have our three major policies that are going up on this sector. First is the UP Electronics manufacturing policy, which was initially started in 2017, and once we reached the target in 2020, then we started again as a phase two of it, and that is really very interesting policy, which I will discuss in detail. Then we have our data center policy in Uttar Pradesh because we have discovered that in a different seismic zone in northern India, we should be the hub, we should be the leader in where the data center should come up. And we have got excellent response, I must tell you, which I will be definitely be sharing again. And lastly, the startup policy which we have developed in Uttar Pradesh, which is definitely going to be the keyword because ultimately IT sector is going to be led in future by startups, and this is the startups that are really going to play a major role in the development of the entire process. Well, coming back to the manufacturing policy, as we can see in Uttar Pradesh, we unveiled this manufacturing policy to become a new global economic hub. That was our idea. We wanted to be able to position ourselves as a leading state which is ready to welcome the global investors. And we wanted to make India as an alternative investment destination in the post-COVID scenario. So our goal of this current scenario is that we should have at least an investment of 40,000 crores and approximately 4 lakh direct employment through this. Well, the background was in 2017 when we started with our electronic policy, and our target of investment and employment generation was achieved in the third year itself, although we had a 5-year plan. So in that particular phase, we got a major mobile manufacturing hub in Noida, which has a world, which has it has attracted foreign direct investment all over the world, and I can proudly say that at least 60% of the entire manufacturing of mobiles in India is from Noida. So for from UP, I would say. So that is really a very encouraging aspect that we have really been able to achieve. So the electronic manufacturing cluster 2.0, where we came up with the scheme of manufacturing electronic components and semiconductors. Now, when I say semiconductors policy initiatives, I would again like to highlight the Government of India initiative in the same part. So we were slightly away ahead, where we had already assumed and we had already visualized that this particular sector is going to grow and this particular sector has a demand in the world. Recently, when we were targeting a very ambitious program of distribution of all students of academic year 2021-22 with smartphones or tablets as per the needs of their department, as per the needs of their education sector. So we discovered a very interesting phenomenon, and that was that entire semiconductor procedure was either being controlled from Taiwan or from China or from US. Now they were actually ruling the market and they were actually dictating the prices of semiconductor and virtually the goods. Now this semiconductor has of late gained a huge demand in so many sectors. I would say so many sectors. It may be car, it may be your mobile, or it may be our tablet, it may be our housekeeping activities or anything. So this is the future. And in this particular future of semiconductor development activity, it can not just information technology industry, manufacturing industry, it can be a cottage industry as well, if the original concept of cottage industry can be perceived. So with that idea, with that concept, we are definitely going to make this semiconductor policy and this concept of having the manufacturing of semiconductors in Uttar Pradesh on a big deal. Now, the new electronic manufacturing policy 2020, as we have said, now we have extended to the entire state. And it has got very good features in well. Initially, we started with Noida, Greater Noida, and Yamuna Expressway. Now we have given the incentives, which is can be based on anywhere in Uttar Pradesh. And I would just like to highlight a few of the incentives. Well, firstly, the clusters focus on mobile manufacturing, consumer durables, IT hardware, medical equipments, defense corridor, as you have seen, it is coming up in the Bundelkhand area of Uttar Pradesh, because Uttar Pradesh basically has got four regions: one is the central UP, the western UP, the Purvanchal, and the Bundelkhand area, which are, and all the areas have got their different connotations, different agricultural perspective, different concepts. So the incentives, if I could highlight, was that in a capital subsidy of 15%, which is huge. And if there is an investment of more than 1,000 crores, we give additional 15% of capital in, subsidy on the investment. Interest subsidy of 5% on the loans from any scheduled bank or financial institutions. We have given stamp duty exemptions, land subsidy, patent cost reimbursement. Electricity duty exemption is a very important issue, because at the recurring expenditure, electricity duty expenditure comes heavily on the industry. So we have given that incentive as well. Of course, there are incentives for EMC development and individual units as well. Especially, we have taken a consideration into targeting the global investors into India, and we will be allowing refurbished plants and machinery up to 40% of the fixed capital investment. So that is another way where we are trying to encourage the industries to come to India along with their established uh, initiatives or industries anywhere in the world, and come to India, establish over here, and get running, get going. We will facilitate. So, in a nutshell, that was what exactly was perceived in 2020 as the electronics manufacturing policy, and that is exactly what we have really excelled into. Uh,
Uh, yeah. Please
yeah.
continue.
Secondly, I would just like to highlight my data center policy. We came with our data center policy in 2021 January. From 2021 January till now, we have got more than 13 uh, clear proposals and interests, out of which six we have already dealt with, and we are going ahead with them. One has already started manufacturing it. We had initially thought of getting a 10,000 crore investment in this particular sector, but it was really very interesting to know that we already have an offer of more than 25,000 crores. So, data center policy in this particular seismic zone, in this particular hub, in this particular region is what we are aiming at. So, in that way, we are definitely going to be, I hope so, that Uttar Pradesh comes out beautifully in this particular field of inviting global investors, facilitating people, and of course, helping our own Uttar Pradesh in a big way. Over to you, boss. You're mute. Sorry, you're
Thank
mute.
you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Vineet, for sharing some light on the various aspects of boosting IT manufacturing in the state of UP. Uh, I'll just take a cue from what you've said. You talked about data center policy and all those things. But if I may ask you that, if we talk about the digitization and IT, how do you think that the manufacturing sector as a whole uh, can benefit in the future, especially in the new world order, new normal, where we are talking more and more about digitization and IT enablement? So, where do you think that digitization, along with IT boost, can actually help the manufacturing sector as a whole in a country like India in near future? Your thoughts on that?
Well, when we talk about digitization, my own personal experience and by working in this government sector is that we are heading towards a scenario of blockchain technology, where heavily we are going to depend on that, and be it manufacturing sector, be it our revenue concept, be it our land management, be it our urban planning, whatever it is going to come up, we have to identify each and every property, each and every new issues, and get linked through a blockchain. So Internet of Things or artificial intelligence is definitely going to come up in this particular field, where we have to be more interactive, more open, and more clear about what we actually want to happen. So when I say digitization, so if I discuss my own experience in Uttar Pradesh, so 20 years before we started with a typewriter, when I came into my service, my personal assistant had a typewriter. And now, when I talk about 20 years down the line, this is a 21 year of my services. Now, my own website is interactive. So there is a chatbot introduced in it. There is artificial intelligence introduced in it. So if I want to ask a question, I don't have to ring up the department to call for something. I just have to go on the website and make it interactive, get the information done, and of course get the deliverables done. More than 300 services in Uttar Pradesh are through this IT sector. All the direct benefit transfers are through this particular process. So, in a way, this IT intervention has got deep into our system. I'm not talking about the social media and the social concept, which are taking at least 40% of the entire internet trafficking, become what may. I'm talking about the core government to citizen centric services and the delivery from government to citizen, which is definitely the main focus for us right now. And of course, the internal processes of the government system, where the file moving and everything, e-filing and whatnot, that is also going to come as in a IT intervention. So in the entire cluster, the support mechanism has to be some hardware which has to develop it. There has to be some data center which has to store it. There has to be some DR which has to take care of it. There has to be some different seismic zone we can put up our DR. There has to be some data center we have to cater to it. And of course, with the new concept of keeping our own data in our own country, which is definitely very important for us to have it. So we need our own data centers as well. We need our own infrastructure as well. As of now, we just cater to 2% of the entire data that is being created in India, which is being kept in India. So that is the volume of the information that we are generating. So in the entire scenario, when we talk about this process of having a information technology boom coming up, or the intervention coming up, or the government to citizen centric services coming up, so there is a demand now from the side of citizen, that we need to be facilitated. So when there is a demand, then we need to have a very, very simplistic process mechanism to give that information and to deliver that services. And this is where our manufacturing policy comes into being, because we need to create a homogeneous system in each and every area of our country. Maybe say in Uttar Pradesh, in particular, say Noida area, Noida, Gurgaon, and that might be one zone. Maybe in Bangalore and Hyderabad coming up closely now, because once there was a Bangalore, once there was a Hyderabad. Now they're not just far off; they're quite similar to each other now. So in these ways, if we can develop 10 to 12 or 15 total big hubs connected at an area of say 400, 500 kilometers, where we can establish manufacturing, utility, usability, and their implementation part, including research and development as well, which is the most important thing that we are also thinking about, because we have also developed our center of excellence with IIT Kanpur, with IIT Roorkee, with BIMTech. We have got three center of excellence, one in with SGPGI also in the medical field, because we think that that is also going to be the thing. So R&D, manufacturing, usability, and keeping the data. So that is how I see and I perceive the entire gamut of plan in this scenario and in coming years to come. Over
Thank
to
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar Vineet. And I really support what you said at last, that R&D has to be one of the focus area if we have to improve our or better our scheme of things, and obviously managing data and making all those kind of centers, at least 10 to 15 centers across India, to manage that kind of load. That will be very important. Thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts on the various initiatives in the state of UP, especially when it comes to IT manufacturing and the policies related to boost the IT manufacturing. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar Vineet, for joining us in the inaugural of APAC Virtual Manufacturing Conclave, and we hope that we'll be do a physical event soon where we can interact physically. I am sure that pandemic will be over soon. Thank you so much. With this, we move to the next speaker from the northern part of the country, move to the southern part of the country. We'll be joined by Ms. Pooja Kulkarni, Managing Director and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu, which comes under the Industries Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. And for our audience, for our viewers, Guidance Tamil Nadu is one of the most important agency when it comes to industry in the state of Tamil Nadu. It's a nodal investment promotion agency, and we all know that India's second largest economy is Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu is also one of the major manufacturing hub. And we have with us Pooja Kulkarni, Managing Director and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu, who will be shedding some light on various initiatives of Guidance Tamil Nadu in terms of uh, doing investment in the manufacturing sector in the state. So let's have the perspective from Pooja Kulkarni, who will be delivering her keynote address in the inaugural of APEC Manufacturing Conclave.
Guidance. I'm Pooja Kulkarni, MD and CEO of Guidance. Just to introduce about Guidance. Guidance is the single window agency which does investment promotion for Tamil Nadu. It is the single point contract for all investors wanting to consider Tamil Nadu as an investment destination. So, just to brief you about what we do, our primary goal is investment promotion. We scan more than 12 sectors, we talk to investors and generate leads, and that is how we promote investments in Tamil Nadu. Once we have connected with the investor, after that we handhold the investor to set up their operations in Tamil Nadu. So that could be getting their clearances, identifying the appropriate sites for them, all the permissions from the regulatory authorities. All of that is facilitated by Guidance. We also have exclusive teams which are into external engagement. So we connect with all the industry associations within the country, as well as the international investor community and the international industry associations. Apart from that, we connect with the Indian missions abroad, also with the consul generals within the country. We are also the primary agency which prepares the policies for industrial investment promotion. We monitor the developments in the economy, and we primarily serve as a knowledge team for government. Apart from that, we have a team which also handles the media and communication, and to promote Tamil Nadu as a favorable investment destination. So, just to brief you about Tamil Nadu is the second largest economy in India with a size of GDP $265 billion, and now the vision of the new government is to make it a $1 trillion economy by 2030 and mobilize investments of the order of 26 lakh crores. As a state, we provide the primary inputs. We are surplus, and we ensure that the primary inputs that go into production, be it power or manpower, land, all of these are facilitated in the state. These are available in plenty in the state. Power, we are power surplus. We are the 10th largest state in the country. We have a population of about 7.2 crores, that is 70 million. Tamil Nadu is also the most urbanized state in the country amongst the large states. More than 50% of our population lives in urban areas, and therefore the state is not only uh, pivoted as a manufacturing destination, but also a large consuming economy prevails in the state. It is a highly industrialized state. We are home to 74 of the Fortune 500 companies, and it is also reflecting in the connectivity that we have. We have 6 airports, of which 4 are international airports. We also have 4 large seaports in the state, 3 of which are in Chennai and 1 is in Tuticorin. This is what I have already mentioned. I've already spoken about the airports, 4 international airports and 2 domestic. So, from anywhere in the country, we can connect within the day, and we are well connected with destinations abroad also. More than 2,400 weekly flights. Of course, in the present situation, these are curtailed, but during normal times, we have more than 2,400 weekly flights to and from the state. Uh, More than 500 international flights also fly weekly. Seaports, I mentioned there are 3 major seaports in Chennai and 1 major port in Tuticorin. And the volume of cargo that we handle is of the order of 240 million tons. The road network of Tamil Nadu is something that is well known across the country. The network of national and state highways is at par with the best, and the quality of the state highways also is at par with that of the national highways. Internet connectivity, we have nearly 15 Tbps of bandwidth available, which is the highest amongst the Indian states. We also have the undersea cables landing at Chennai, which gives us an added advantage. The policy landscape for Tamil Nadu, which governs investments, in 2019 we launched the EV policy. Prior to that, we had an industrial policy, which was of course covering the earlier tax regime, which now we have revised to measure up to the present tax regime. And early this year, we launched the Tamil Nadu industrial policy. Last year, we also launched the electronics hardware manufacturing policy. During the year, we will also be launching a few more policies, one for fintech sector, another for the life sciences sector, which would cover pharma, biotech, biomanufacturing, medical electronics, and medical textiles. So, all of these we would expect to cover within the life sciences policy. And with the feedback that we have got, we would also look to update our EV policy. Just to give you an overview of the policies that we have, the target of our EV policy is to attract about 50,000 crores of investments in manufacturing, and this is to cover the entire ecosystem of electric vehicles. So that includes bikes, cars, the batteries, the components such as the drives, the powertrains, the charging infrastructure, and the goal of the policy is to create a conducive environment for all of these to come together as a hub. Tamil Nadu's strength has been the automotive hub. We have created a model where the OEMs have benefited from a favorable hub which has been created for them and their component suppliers. So we aim to create a similar hub for the EV, for the electronic vehicles segment also. We are already power surplus, but the infrastructure that is required for the growth of the EV segment is something that we intend to create further. Under the EV policy, we also would like to focus on R&D and startups. So we provide incubation services. We also intend to provide parking spaces, earmarked parking spaces for EVs in commercial buildings and charging stations. We will be making amendments to our building regulations to promote such an endeavor. Under the policy, we offer incentives to industries, to investors which are in the EV sector. Some of them are common incentives which we provide across sectors, and these would be available whether you seek incentives either under the EV policy or the industrial policy or the electronics hardware policy. And these are the 100% exemption on stamp duty, subsidy on cost of land depending on the district where the site is situated, 100% exemption on electricity tax for a specified period, then training subsidy, and additional capital subsidy for the MSME sector. Under the EV sector, we would be offering 100% reimbursement of the SGST on the vehicles manufactured and sold within the state. And on the investments as such, we would be offering 15% capital subsidy. So this would be applicable basically if the vehicles are not sold within the state, so they may be manufactured here, but they would be sold outside or exported. So for such units, we would be providing 15% subsidy on the capital investments. For battery manufacturers, we provide 20% subsidy on the capital invested. On the demand side incentives, currently the road tax is exempted, registration fees are waived off, and permit fees also are waived off. We would be covering more of the demand side incentives in our updated EV policy shortly. The next policy that I would like to cover is the electronics hardware manufacturing policy. Tamil Nadu already has a strong base in electronics hardware manufacturing, and we have some of the leading international companies which have set up base here. Our aim is to transform Tamil Nadu into a globally competitive electronic system design and manufacturing destination, for which we would like to build the necessary infrastructure. We are aware that this requires skilled manpower, and we are also working towards that in collaboration with our Skill Development Corporation, also in collaboration with our technical universities and technical education institutions. We also are encouraging startups in the sector. During the last 4 years, Tamil Nadu has seen tremendous growth in this sector. More than 15% CAGR is what we have clocked over the last 4 years. And the sector has also contributed significantly to our exports. Our aim is to attract electronics hardware manufacturers not just in the mobile sector, but also in the consumer goods sector, in precision engineering, and more importantly in the semiconductor and fab sectors. So this is what I covered. For the electronic hardware manufacturers also, we would be providing incubating services. We have innovation grants and startup grants. Our target is to skill more than 1 lakh people during the policy period specifically for this sector, and we would be entering into joint training programs and certifications. We would also like to develop common parks, specified ESDM parks, exclusive ESDM parks with common infrastructure, and all clearances would of course be would be facilitated through our portal. This is a snapshot of the categorization of our districts. So the districts in the rust color are the Chennai sector, which covers Chennai, Chengalpet, Kanchipuram, and Tiruvallur districts. These are classified as A. The ones in orange are the B districts, and the ones in yellow are the C districts. So our emphasis is to try and develop greater industry focus in the C districts, due to which we offer higher incentives also in the C districts. So while if you are willing to set up your unit in an A district, the minimum threshold is 500 crores, whereas if it is in a C district, it is only 200 crores. And depending on the size, the nature of incentives also vary. This is the incentive that we offer, and this is the capital subsidy that we offer under this policy for electronics hardware manufacturing units is higher than what we offer under the industrial policy. So for A districts, depending on the size, it is 15 and 18%. For B, it is 20 and 24, and for C districts, it is 25 and 30. The other incentives which are common, I had already mentioned under the EV policy. Those same incentives are available here also, so which is exemption on stamp duty, subsidy on land cost, training subsidy, exemption of the electricity tax. Apart from that, we also offer a defraying of costs on creation of intellectual capital and quality certifications. Also, interest subvention on actual term loans for a period of 6 years for industries that are investing in the mega category. Let me now dwell upon the industrial policy. Our vision is, of course, to make Tamil Nadu the most favored destination for investments across the world, and our vision now is to make Tamil Nadu the best in South Asia itself. Like I mentioned earlier, our vision is to make Tamil Nadu a $1 trillion economy by 2030. The investment climate in Tamil Nadu is already favorable, but we would like to improve that further and endeavor to make that the best in the world, to continuously ease the doing of business, to develop the skilled manpower in the state, to harness the state's skilled resources, and also ensure balanced development. So these are some of the initiatives that we are taking under the industrial policy. We have guidance is already the single point agency. We also have a single window portal which now provides more than 100 services for which you can apply online. It is a common form, and guidance will facilitate the according of permissions across various departments. This processing will be parallel, which will of course save a lot of time for the investor in getting the requisite clearances. We also have another portal called BizBuddy, which is to again resolve investor issues in a time-bound manner. This is primarily for investor aftercare. So while the initial hand-holding is through the single window portal, once the industry is set up, then the interaction with the industry is through the BizBuddy portal. This is the classification of industries. It is the same as what we mentioned for the electronics hardware sector. And the investment periods, the investment ranges differ depending on the nature of the district. So while in the A districts here you would require a minimum investment of 500 crores to be eligible for incentives. In the C districts it is sufficient, the B and C districts, it is sufficient that the threshold investment level is about 300 crores. The investment period of course varies depending on the size of investment. For industries that are, for each of these categories, we offer a different level of incentives. One of the unique features of our policy is that we offer a bouquet of options. So suiting to the investor's requirement and what benefits the investor most. The investor is welcome to choose that incentive option. The investor is also welcome to choose the policy that suits the investor best. So if it is an EV investor, then the investor has the choice to pick up the incentives that suit him best, whether under the industrial policy or under the EV policy. Similarly, an electronics hardware manufacturing investor can see if the incentives under the electronics hardware manufacturing policy, if they offer a higher benefit, the investor can choose that. Or on the other hand, if the option under the industrial policy offers a higher benefit, the investor is free to choose the industrial policy. So within the industrial policy itself, we offer choices of a fixed capital subsidy, a flexible capital subsidy under which if the industry is in a sunrise sector and generates a higher level of employment, then up to 40% of the capital invested can be sanctioned as a subsidy. There is also a turnover subsidy option for high employment generating industry. SGST reimbursement for goods which can be ascertained that they are definitely sold within the state. The standard incentives are covered under the industrial policy also, so I would not repeat them. They are common across the EV policy, the electronics policy and the industrial policy. Under the industrial policy for very large units, that is the ultra mega units, we also offer interest subvention of 5% up to a cap of 4 crores per annum for 6 years. For the sunrise sector investments, also the interest subvention is offered for not just the ultra mega, but it is offered for the large and the mega projects also. There is a training subsidy of 4,000 per month for male employees and 6,000 per month for female employees for 6 months. And a land cost incentive in the C districts, which can be as high as 50%. Apart from this, we also offer a relocation subsidy for FDI projects. An investor who is relocating from a foreign location to Tamil Nadu within the policy period, there is a defraying of the cost of shifting, that is the cost of transport and logistics, up to 75% of the actual cost incurred with a cap of 10 crores. There is also an R&D training subsidy specifically engaged towards investors which are engaged in core research and development projects, and that is about rupees 10,000 per month for 12 months. Apart from the large investments, we have certain standard incentives which we offer sub-large investments also. So there is a capital subsidy of 1 crore which shall be dispersed on completion of the investment. The electricity tax incentive, training subsidy for R&D projects, a 50% concession on stamp duty, and an incentive for green industry is also available up to 25% of the cost or a limit of rupees 1 crore. Under the policy, we also aim to develop industrial parks, welcome investors who would like to develop industrial parks. We already have a few private investors who have developed industrial parks, and we promote investments in those parks too. So the eligibility for such an investment would be greater than 500 crores in the B and C districts, and a capital subsidy of about 12 to 15% of the investment in the eligible fixed assets is available to be sanctioned. The dispersal would be slab-based. Within the park, development of industrial housing, residential facilities also are eligible for 10% subsidy, and there is also an enhanced incentive for green initiatives. So 25% of the cost for something like an effluent treatment plant would be available subject to an upper limit. The industry logistics is a critical input for industry, and under the policy we aim to improve the logistics network. We already have a good network, however we aim to improve upon the network in terms of storage facilities as well as parks. So a multimodal logistics park containing an inland container depot with a minimum investment of 50 crores and spread over at least 10 acres would be eligible. Cold chain facilities, warehousing facilities would also be eligible subject to threshold limits. The point to be noted is that the logistics infrastructure sector is also being given industry status, and therefore the tariffs, the permissions to operate in 3 shifts, all of those would be available. We would also be facilitating such investments through the single window portal. A training cost would also be defrayed up to rupees 10,000 per employee, and special incentives are also available for integrated logistics parks in the B and C category districts, subject to meeting the criteria and relaxation of non-processing area. R&D projects, mere manufacturing would not be sufficient to propel growth. It is innovation and research and development which really caters to newer products being developed, and we would like to partner with industry to promote R&D within the state. These are also provided with certain incentives in the policy. So there is a threshold level of investment. The R&D unit must be located, of course, within the state. For such units, we are providing 50% of the cost of land or lease up to a certain, subject to a certain ceiling. Subsidies available, like I mentioned earlier, subsidies also available for the employees which work in this unit. That would be at the rate of 10,000 rupees for 12 months, and the standard incentives applicable to manufacturing as well as the quality certification and intellectual property creation, these would also be available for the R&D projects. So I have covered the incentives that we offer in our policies in brief. I would request all the investors participating here to kindly reach out to us. We would be hand-holding your investment through and through. And I would like to take this opportunity to again welcome you all to Tamil Nadu.
That was Pooja Kulkarni, MD and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu, the nodal agency for investment and single window policy for Tamil Nadu. And as she was saying, that a lot of work has been done in the state of Tamil Nadu to who investors to bring investment to the state. A lot of policies, be it EV policy, hardware policy, industrial policy, policy for manufacturing, policy for R&D for startups. And as Pooja Kulkarni was saying, that they're ready and they're open for investments, and they're there to handhold investors to the state. Thank you so much, Pooja Kulkarni, CEO and MD of Guidance Tamil Nadu, for joining us in the inaugural of APEC Manufacturing Conclave and delivering the keynote address. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. Do join us for the next session at 11:30 a.m. IST for industry presentation from Creston and Morphisec, and it will be followed by a CEC tour video by Creston also. So do join us at 11:30. Thank you so much for the inaugural session of 2-day APEC Virtual Manufacturing Congress.